You said that there was some kind of aspect of it that you were looking forward to.
One thing that's always been a turn on in my decades of having all this on the radar has been just about the pleasure that I would be able to bring to my partner. And for some reason, I don't know how clinical I need to be or how vulgar I want to be, but just the oral aspects of what a man can do for a woman.
I've never in a million years
Oh, yeah.
would have expected that to be the thing you were most excited about.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
So just to clarify before we kind of really get into it, you are not a virgin because you're religious.
No, I'm not. I was raised Catholic, but no, I don't really practice at all. I don't consider myself that anymore.
Nothing in Catholicism is stopping you
No.
from expressing yourself with a woman.
No.
And you're also not an incel.
Oh, no.
You're actually kind of almost the opposite in terms of, incels hate women.
Yeah.
But you almost kind of put women up on a pedestal to where maybe you respect them a little too much to, lay a finger on.
Just my wiring for any number of reasons. Yeah. But I mean, the in part of the cell isn't the case because I've had more than my fair share of green lights over the decades and I just didn't take them for any number of reasons. But, it was meant to be how it was meant to be.
Or it was meant to not be.
Exactly.
And as far as the sort of spectrum of sexuality, you're a little different because you might be open to men, women, and everything in between. But in terms of what you're looking for in maybe getting back out there and doing some dating, you're looking for a woman, a heterosexual woman.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Look, would I be lying if I said there was a new chink in the armor that was maybe built in my whole life? I don't know. Was it on the radar 20 years ago? No, not at all. Not at all. Has it been on the radar for, say, the last solid 10 years? Sure.
You're celebrating just a decade of
my curiosity.
Yes, your newfound curiosity.
Oh, sure.
If you had to make an educated guess, what do you think the main reason why you're still a virgin is?
How quickly time moves. Not that that's like, I've said it before to people in my life. I was 20 yesterday. I'm 42 today. It goes like that, all the potentials and the green lights that I've had over the years that I didn't take again for any number of reasons, I chalk it up to divine timing or fate or destiny. I can look at those examples now that I wasn't meant to take them then. I honestly, I don't specifically know why. I mean, sure, you can go back to my, I guess, high school days or my early college days, early 20s and all that. I wasn't right in my head, I guess, or I wasn't confident in my mind, body, and soul, my energy at the time for, I guess like a lot of the cliche stereotypes you might associate, again, with being an early 20-something-year-old virgin, where weirdly enough, now I'm an early 40-something-year-old virgin. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't faze me. And I can really engage it in a different way. Whereas 20 years ago, where it's more common to be a virgin back then, or when you're in that age group, I was more just stuck in my head, or I was more anxious and just not right.
So you kind of shied away from it or were embarrassed, and now you're kind of leaning into it.
Yeah. Not necessarily embarrassed back then, but it was more of a part of me and where you could tell. Now, again, I know I've had people in my life now that can kind of tell as well that apparently my energy is very virgin-y, I've been told. But that being said, yeah, I lean into it now in a different way because to me it is what it is, and it's not reflective of negatives. Sometimes I get criticized for bringing it up too soon to people, but once I get comfortable enough, if it comes up in context of a conversation, I'm okay with it.
And in terms of, say you are going on a date, is that something that you're kind of like, just so you know, like as a disclaimer, or is it something that comes up after you know somebody for a couple of weeks?
With my experiences dating back in the day, it's been long enough that I really just haven't, for a while. No, I never brought it up. I would imagine now if it's in context to a conversation we're having on this hypothetical date with this hypothetical woman.
By the way.
Just so you know, I mean, yeah. But I won't lead with that,
right. Sure.
My name's Matt.
And how long ago would you say that you went on your last date?
Oof.
You're 42 now.
It's been a while. It's been
10 years?
I would say probably earlier 30s was like the last time and it was like a friend of a friend or something like that. No, it's been a while. It's been multiple administrations. Now we've had a recent spate of one-termers, but not to get political.
We're probably talking Obama.
Oh, easy. Yeah. Because I just was never a dater to begin with. It wasn't enough for me to commit it to memory in that like at one point I went to Tavern on the Green. She was a North Jersey gal. I'm a South Jersey boy.
That's a nice restaurant. Isn't Tavern on the Green like fine dining?
It's been closed for a while, but I remember I was like, all right, we can go there. I think we might have even did the and it shows you because I'd be uncomfortable doing it now. The horse-drawn carriage or something.
Wow, so you're like a real romantic.
Well, at the time, yeah. See, I'd be uncomfortable doing it now just because I'd feel way, way, way too guilty to put the horse through that.
Right.
But yeah, no. I definitely. Oh, I love all that stuff.
Wow, you were like quite the Casanova though when you were dating, because it sounds like you put in some serious legwork in terms of wooing these women.
Well, I would like to agree with that, but it was her suggestion, and I was like, okay, like I didn't care, like I didn't know what it was.
She said, "Let's go to Tavern on the Green and a horse-drawn carriage."
It was like I said, or maybe like a rickshaw or something like that. It was, and you think I would read again? It's been that long. It was either a person or a horse, but whatever it was, I know we were in the back of something, and then we did ride in a taxi, which was like probably my first time in a New York City taxi. I was a whole.
And in terms of experience, when you were dating, are you grabbing a boob? Are you French kissing? Are we on the baseball field?
In thinking in terms of that, going into the example of how I just wasn't right in my head. One of the things that even I know, women like confidence in men. And not that I was not confident, but I kind of felt like, there's no longevity to this. There's not going to be a second date, or they did.
So you weren't really clicking with these women, so it didn't get anywhere physically.
Exactly right.
Why sort of lead them to believe that I want there to be more?
On my part and or theirs or both, where it just kind of like fizzled and you just kind of know. And again, is inexperienced as I am now, I definitely can read that room better, read that person better. And then 20 years ago, 10 years ago, yeah.
So as far as experience, we're starting kind of...
Oh, yeah. Blank slate.
We're starting at the beginning.
Oh, and how?
And I know we talked about being kind of culturally Catholic. Abstinence is usually kind of the go-to. That's what I was taught. Was there any kind of sex education at all, or was it also just abstinence?
Yeah, not acknowledged, but not acknowledged. You know what I mean? Like it just wasn't, because they were older when they had me. They were in their early 40s when I was born. So who they were when they had me in their early 40s versus who they were when they had my oldest brother in their early 20s. You know what I mean? They were very different for obvious reasons. As far as memory serves, no, it really wasn't engaged by my family.
Do you remember growing up, like having any sort of early attractions? Did you have any crushes or anything like that?
I'm last of five, so my next closest sibling to me is my sister. She's about 10 years older than me. She was in like cheerleading, but she's like, she had like friends in gymnastics and cheerleading and all that. And so sometimes like our mom would make her schlep me around to like their meets or whatever. So a lot of her friends were like cheerleaders and gymnasts or whatever.
Nice.
But I remember just very much being fascinated by like these much older girls than me, women, I guess at the time, that were able to do all these, amazingly athletic or contortionist type things. I'm probably using that word wrong, but you get the gist. I didn't sexualize it at the time, but I remember just being drawn to that for just an innate reason. Who knows? And then, of course, as I got older, then I became more aware of the fact that I'm attracted to, I guess, athletic women or, gymnasts or stuff like that. And not for those cliches, again, anything athletic, gym related, yoga, stuff like that. It definitely, I mean, that's like, wow, I'm very much impressed by that.
So that could have been kind of a formative thing, maybe you being
for sure
dragged along to those gymnastics meets.
Yeah. I mean, later on, or certainly now, it's still, shall we, not to make it weird, but it definitely, yeah.
You have mentioned having a touch of the OCD. Do you have any kind of phobias or anything that would stop you from being close or inside of a woman?
No, not at all. When I say OCD, a lot of times I'll use it as a catch-all. Not that I think for sure it's in my family.
I've known you almost 5 years, and I don't think I've ever seen you stand still.
To me, that's not OCD. That's just being high energy or a little hyper.
You're just clinically a busybody.
And that's definitely in the family. We are an active family in that regard. Mine manifests a little more this way, more physically.
But no sort of ick factor that would, just because knowing you, the first place that my brain goes is like, are you okay with, and are there going to be a lot of rules, stipulations for, fluids and surfaces and lighting, maybe?
Well, no, lighting. I mean, it doesn't. And I always remember being young, or when I was seeing in movies or whatever, or you just hear conversations or whatever about how it's supposed to be in the dark or what. No, no, no. I don't have to be in the dark. Not that he needed Klieg lights on. Obviously, that's just going to make it awkward. But no, not a problem with the lighting. Insofar as like fluids or anything like that, yeah, no, not a problem. Especially considering there are definitely things that I look forward to being able to do. One of the things that has kind of steered me off of, maybe engaging the services of a pro is because some of the things that I'll very much look forward to doing, I would rather do it with somebody that there's a relationship kind of there.
Right. Handing, her a envelope full of cash could kind of kill the mood.
I don't think I'd be able to physiologically, hint, hint, get in the mood because of that whole setup. Like, it's not.
You said that there was some kind of aspect of it that you were looking forward to.
One thing that's always been a turn on in my decades of having all this on the radar has been just about the pleasure that I would be able to bring to my partner. And for some reason, I don't know how clinical I need to be or how vulgar I want to be, but just the oral aspects of what a man can do for a woman.
I've never in a million years would have expected that to be the thing you were most excited about.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait. And that's why, one, it's kind of like steered me away from, again, being involved with a pro, because I can never believe the lie. Even if I am doing it well, I'm not going to know that I'm firing on those cylinders. I'm going to have to learn. Obviously, I have no clue how good I'll be at it.
I want to get my hands on one of those Lamborghinis so I can get it detailed.
And how? But just with my mouth.
Take it to the car wash.
Sure, I'm bad with references or euphemisms sometimes.
I feel like I'm mixing metaphors at this point too.
You might be, yes.
Man, knowing that, it's like such a shame. How many women could you have pleasured by now?
A couple.
If that's the thing that, you kind of get known maybe in your subdivision as the guy that really gets in there. Like you would have been very popular with the ladies had you kind of, explored a little bit more.
And I still can, and I hope I am in that regard. But I had one of my old work buddies. I remember us having this conversation, just about specific times of the month that a woman will go through where that necessarily isn't a desire in general.
Well, they call that getting your red wings if you do that during that, time of the month.
But I remember he was just surprised by that. I didn't seemingly have a problem with that.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have them prominently pinned to your lapel.
Listen.
Like a little kid on a Delta flight.
Well, I hear something about like lick a 9-volt battery.
In some situations, yeah. Sometimes it can sting a little bit. Well, I will say this has been an interesting initial assessment, and I think you might be a lesbian.
I wouldn't put it like that, but yeah, no. I mean, look, I can't wait to engage the rest of the old mind, body, and soul for sure.
So my idea for future episodes is that we could do sort of some low-grade exposure therapy. So would you be comfortable, let's say, going to like a strip club or doing speed dating?
I mean, you wouldn't be the first, middle, or last to suggest I go to a strip club. I've had more than a few people in my life try to get me to go.
Right.
Weirdly enough, I wouldn't be as opposed now as I was in my 20s or 30s. And you would think it'd be reversed, where now that you're older, that's more out of your blood or out of the, interest level. But
because my idea is like kind of ramp up a little bit, because you're going from having not dated since you were in your early 30s, maybe, so it's not as jarring of a transition. Because I'm assuming you want to get sort of back out there.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, not opposed. But yeah, I guess I'd be interested in with who.
Cinnamon.
Well, yeah, I'm sold.
Cavassier.
Sorry.
These are with who? Just throwing out some names, Jasmine.
I'm a fan already.
Veronica. She's good. Veronica's good. But you did mention why maybe you didn't lose your virginity in the past had something to do with, divine timing or destiny. So you're going to tell me all about your quest to find your twin flame.
She's out there.
That is something I'm very curious about, and I want you to sort of educate me.
If I'm being honest, here's hoping I didn't not utilize the time correctly for the last few decades and thinking I was, onto something.
Right. We hope this wasn't all for naught.
To say the least.